Please welcome on stage Ann-Kathrin Kuhls, online editor for GamePro.de with Aren't you playing games the whole day anyway? Thank you so much. Oh, warte. Oh, das war mein Job. Dankeschön.
Ooh, okay. Hi, my name is Ann-Kathrin Kuhls, and I am an editor for a gaming magazine, which is GamePro. And I'm a bit intimidated because normally I only talk to cameras and no one's there. So, hi. Also, I'm explaining this. English is not my first language, so I got this, and I'm gonna read from it. I'm really sorry for that, but when I get very nervous, my words tend to go somewhere, and I only have half an hour and not 3, so try to make it good for everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for inviting me. It was, I was very surprised that someone cared about what I do in a matter of, hey, let's talk about how you got where you got and all that. That is kind of cool. So thank you for that. Even got a thank you there. Okay, so I would like to talk about what I do, which is sadly not playing video games all day. I try to explain that to a lot of people that don't really know that much about my job. Since you're here on a conference about women in tech, I think you know what video editors and gaming editors do, but I'll just go a bit into detail how my day looks like and all that. And also how I got my job and what cookies had to do with it. And also how my work changed and I changed. Because, you know, we went from... I started off with a printing magazine, the GamePro, and now 95% of what we do is online. So that was a very big change in just 4 years. Well, and lastly, I want to talk about what our challenges as journalists are and why we really need fresh blood to tackle them. Which sounds like a blood sacrifice. I did not mean it that way. We don't need fresh blood, as in blood. It can be older. Okay, stop. Maybe I should have started with, hi, my name is AK, and I do not intend to murder you in your sleep, but maybe, lamps? It's like, what is she doing? What is she talking about? Well, it's gonna come to you in a minute, because this is the reason why I started to work in journalism. Because, you know, I did not want to become a journalist straight away. I was studying English and German literature and culture, and I got bored. Not because the topics weren't interesting, but I didn't want to keep writing a 40-page essay about someone writing 50 pages about someone writing about lamps. There is actually a poem from Eduard Mörike which is called The Lamp, and there's a lot of discussion about it. And it's a lamp, you know? So I decided to do something differently. I decided to apply for a magazine, for an internship. And I needed to stand out, so I made cookies. Cookies. It's basically, it was because I knew a lot of people were applying, and I tried to do something to stand out. And I'm really crap at making coffee, so I decided, well, guys, I'm a bad intern, I can't do coffee, but I can do cookies. So I sent them a whole package. And they invited me over to Munich, so I went all the way from Münster down to Munich. And, well, my cookies were great, apparently, because I got accepted. I also wrote 12 pages about Alice Madness Returns, but to this day, I think it was the cookies, because gaming journalists have a sweet tooth, or 3. Okay, yeah. So I started my internship, and I'm not gonna lie, it was equally awesome, but also really, really hard. Suspense. Because all that writing I did about lamps, it did not help me a bit in journalism. because people don't want to read academic texts. They don't want to read about like long sentence after sentence after sentence. They want to have something more fluffy. So my texts came back red. And that was okay because I wanted to learn, but it was a lot of work, let's say that. They're still not perfect, but I'm learning, I'm trying. And well, back then, I was the only woman at GamePro. There were others before me, and it's weird because now half of my team is female. My editor-in-chief, she's female, and but back then it was 4 years ago, so I'm not 60. I don't have that much experience as the people before me, but it was weird because even if like my colleagues never made me feel excluded, there were some things they just couldn't help me with. For example, I had no one to teach me how to voice videos, because we do have women. When we did have women back there, one of them is Petra Schmitz, who is still at GameStar. She's very skilled, very qualified. Also the person that accepted me, so if you hear this, thank you very much. I am very grateful for that. But she has a very nice, lovely, dark voice. And my voice makes dogs whole, sometimes. It really did at one point, but I'm not gonna get into that. Anyway, so I had to work on it. I worked at my writing, my fear of being in front of a camera, and talking to a lot of people. I did not sleep much. I did not see the sun a lot, but I might say I improved. To say, I was buying makeup at one point, so I won't be as shiny, and the lady that gave me the makeup, she has a special drawer for really, really pale people, and that's what I got. So. Anyways, it did work out. It did work out. It's very weird to talk about all that because now there's women everywhere I look. It's still mainly guys, but I know so many talented female writers now that today it's really hard to imagine how it was. Also because, as I said, my male colleagues never made me feel like the only girl. I was just AK. I was one of them. Well, now that you know how I got where I got, which is working cookies, I'm going to show you what I do. What am I doing? Well, as an editor for GamePro, I talk about video games, I make articles about video games, videos about video games, podcasts about video games, and sometimes I even get to play video games. And in my texts, I try not to talk only about graphics or resolution, but also about video games itself and the stories behind it, because that is the thing that is really interesting to me. And who are the people that make video games? Some of them you will meet today. There's one right there. Well, who are the people that play video games? What do video games do with you when you play them? What do they do with me? And why? And that is something I'm really interested in, and this is why I keep doing what I'm doing. Okay, so depending on your experiences and your expectations, and also your morale, games can move you. They can make you laugh, cry, or question yourself. And they can even make you angry, but that's mostly when it's lag. So there are so many stories in video games, and I love living them and writing about them. But also there are work experiences that are just crazy, and I really like it. For example, you get to go great places for review events or interviews. England and Canada and America, but also France or Poland, and you meet great people who also share the passion that you have. And that is something, that is an experience you need to make if you like video games, I think. For example, 4 years ago, I got to interview Masuda-san, who is the executive director and head of development at Game Freak, and he developed the Pokemon games. And I was so excited, and my legs were shaking, and I thought I would break in two. I didn't. But if I were to interview him now, I would still be just as excited because I really like video games, and that game made Pokemon. That is pretty awesome. What then? All right. In 2016 and 2017, I changed into brand publishing, which is more of which is still journalism, but on the other side, so to say, because you're not working for a magazine, but for a company that wants to inform their customers about what they do and about games. And for these guys, I made the Gamescom stage 2016 and 17 for games.de. And that's different. It's very different because it means pitching the idea, calculating costs and risks, planning the program, inviting developers, hosting the problem. Well, Freud. Hosting the program, screaming myself hoarse against other stages while trying to interview the people I previously invited, and at the end of the week, falling into my bed and wishing to never say a word again in my life. If you ever have been to Gamescom, you know what I'm talking about. So, but most of the days, my job is not to travel around the world or meet people, but to sit at a desk and write and think. That was the first question I think about. Come to that later. That was a sneak peek my finger made without me, but stay tuned for that. It's still not a regular 9-to-5 desk job, but that would bore me to death, so I'm really happy about this. What you see here is one of the things that I try to do, because apart from writing news, I try to find out what people want to know before they know that they want to know it. So I can be the first to write it. So when they have the question, it's me who answers it. And that could be something very pragmatic, like where can I find barns that hide cars in Forza Horizon 4? It could also be, how did the mutant killer sloth in Fallout 76 got so fast, and could our sloths do it too? I did really write that, in case you're interested. Also, I really like sloths. Well, sometimes your topics are really in your face. For example, Red Dead Redemption 2 is coming out soon. So what does everybody want to know about? Exactly. How to braid your horse's hair and pet it so you can bond with it. I still really love Rockstar for that, because you know what that means? Everyone who was very invested in GTA and all about hardcore gaming and stuff, they're going to talk about braiding and bonding and cuddling with their horses. And I'm waiting for that. Anyways, sometimes what you have to write is really obvious, and sometimes you have to think, you know, talk to people, do your research, find out what they want to know, find out what they know, or maybe what they don't want to tell you. And sometimes deciding not to talk about that, because everyone deserves their own moment and surprises. So that was confusing. I'm talking about embargoes, because sometimes we know things, but we can't talk about them yet, which is as exciting for me as it's probably for the people working on the game who can't also, they also can't talk about it. They made this great thing, they can't talk about it, so I will be the last person to spoil that moment for them. So that's what we do too. Well, and then there is when you think you wrote a really great piece, like my sloth piece, you have to optimize it, because it's very hard if you have like a great cake. And how I got there is, your article is like a cake. It can be great. This got Reese's Pieces on it. If you sell it in your house and you don't have a poster advertising it in front of your house, no one's gonna get in your house and read it. So if you write an article, you have to have a good headline and a good intro and a good thumbnail. And sometimes the good headline can take more time than it took you to write the article. So that's what I do too. Well, to see if my approach worked or not, I have to look into the page views and stuff, so I also do math, which I despise. And, but it helps, and it helps me find out why no one actually clicked on the sloth article. Maybe because people are not as interested in sloths as I am, which is sad, but I'm working on it. The whole thing was very different just 4 years ago, because I started in a printing magazine. We had one deadline, which was when all we did got to the printers. So there was a certain amount you can write, because there were ads in it and everything else. And depending on the workload, way more time to refine what you wrote, which for me is both a good thing and a bad thing, because if you keep working on your text, it might get better, but it might also start to really suck. You can always overdo it. Where am I going now? Ah yeah, today. Today, every day is a deadline. Today, I can write however much I want to write about a topic. And if I find out more things about it, I can write more, but everybody else does too. So it's really hard to stop. And it's also really hard to find a time to stop. Because theoretically, when you stop working, America starts. So all the news from America come during the night. So what do? Work nights? Work days too, because there are German publishers as well and European publishers? Well, you got to stop at times. I had to make that experience the hard way, because at some point, if you don't stop yourself, your body will do it for you. So I can only, what's that word? There you go, languages. Take care of yourself, that's what I want to say. Yeah, well, also what I didn't have to do is become a content manager back then, but now I am. So because before we had people putting our texts on the site for us, and I didn't know how to do that. And I also had to learn about that. I had to learn about how a website works. And I had to learn about timing in pictures and how to phrase everything right and how to, you know, make it look good online so it's not just a wall of text. And in some way, it makes you get more involved with your text. And in some way, it makes the text more of your baby. And like every parent, we do not like people calling our babies ugly. We also don't like them to call us ugly, but that's a whole other story. If you don't know what I'm getting at with that, I envy you. But if you work on a public platform, you probably know, and we already talked about that. Opinions are like nose holes. Everybody has one or two. And, well, writing a letter to the editor used to be a thing people had to put effort in. If it was criticism, it was precise. If it was praise, it was honey on your soul, because someone took the time and write a letter. Now, everybody can insult you in just 2 minutes. That sounds really bad. It sometimes is. Well, it does sound awful. To preface this, I'm really grateful for everyone who writes comments under my articles, because I really like to talk about people and people's experiences with games, and if they have completely different experiences, I love that. If you ever want to do that, this is my handle. Just plugging it. Well, it makes me really happy to talk about it, and I'm very grateful if people actually interact with me, because that shows me that people read what I write, and that makes me really happy. But to every silver lining, there's also a storm cloud. And when I put out new articles, I'm always a bit afraid of what people might say, still. You know how we talked about having thicker skin and thinner skin? I have thin skin, I care. Because you know how your mom used to say, oh, honey, it's not that bad, they're not talking about you. If it's under my article, they're talking about me. If they say, oh my God, who got that intern out of the frying pan? That's me. If they say, you suck, you should get fired, and also you're ugly, that's me. So I made it a policy for me never to look into my comments when I'm vulnerable, which means not look into your comments at 3 a.m. in the morning, not look into your comments when you're beat. Look into the comments when you have people with you that can relate to what you do, or have your mom with you. That is really cool too. I still dream about a button where you can just notify their mother after they left that comment straight away. You know how you gotta notify police? You don't have to notify police, notify their mothers. It's all good then. That's my dream. One day. Sometimes I think people visit the comment section just to say something awful. It's just to, they had a bad day, so why not insult an editor or two? It's not even about games anymore. I could be writing about frying pans for all that matter. They would still be the same comments. And every one of my colleagues has to deal with it, and sometimes it makes you question if you're even cut out for this. I do have that. I have moments where I say, I love writing about games, I love talking about games, but I can't stand these comments. So that is the moment where you step back, you collect yourself, and you think about what is stronger. Your passion for video games, or a bored person somewhere on the internet having a bad day. Up until now, the video games always won, so yay. But I do not mean to say that my writing is above everything. I hope I made that clear. When I read old pieces of mine, I have to stop myself from going into the text and writing it all over again, all the time. Make it different, make it better, make it shorter, make it sweeter, whatever. But there's always a constructive way to say things, and then there's the comment section, so I did learn a lot from that, though. Because I read every single comment, and because even if it's hateful or mean, there could still be valid criticism in it, which is not always good for you in the first place, but maybe they get at something. They could phrase it nicer, but sometimes people just want to be heard. And, I take everything in and get better, and it's what I do. I analyze, I react, and I try to get better. Some days I don't look into the comment section at all because I feel like I would feel really bad. So it depends on the day you have, I guess. But always look in your comments and interact with your people, because they want to talk to you, and the more you talk to people, the stronger your community grows, and they stand up for you, and that is the best feeling. So it also makes you tougher in real life, I think. Because if someone's trying to be an ass to me, I'm way more chilled, because they can't possibly imagine something YouTube hasn't already told me. Also, if they find something YouTube hasn't said, it would probably be illegal to say it in public, so bring it on. But you know what? Even if my line of arguments or deductions are flawless, and even if there is nothing to really criticize about my opinion, there is one thing that is a real thing for some people. I am a woman. I know. You didn't notice that at first. I'm very deceiving that way. But out there are people, they are not deceived. Out there, at some parts of the internet, it's still 1960, and those people, they notice. They see. They see the womanness in me. And they are convinced that I can't possibly review Rise of the Tomb Raider because I'm a woman. And women don't like violence. They did not hear the things about blood sacrifices that you just did, so I get that. They also exposed my secret agenda, and this is very important, they would never, ever date me, even if we were the last two people on Earth. How they came to the conclusion I was looking for someone, I will never know because I'm reviewing games, not running a dating service. But I know there's always some idiots and everyone has to deal with them, but it's obvious that me and my female colleagues get more comments about appearance than my male colleagues. Actually, someone made a study about it. And while women on YouTube channels, scientific YouTube channels that is, but still, not entertainment, they get 14% more comments, but 14% of those comments are about appearances. So all they get more is just, you know, either, oh, you're so hot, or you suck, or both. If you don't react to it, you know, first it's like, hey, hi, it's really nice to see you, and then you say, well, thank you. And at one point when you say, well, but I don't want to go out with you because I'm a journalist and I just want to talk about games, they say, oh, you suck then. And all those comments I can't say because this is videotaped and I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, so, well, they say so much. Right? They say, is she wearing so much makeup? Why isn't she wearing any makeup? How are her arms so much bigger than mine? Well, I can tell you the secret, it's chocolate, but that's okay. Well, that really irks me. Not because it's impolite, because people are impolite everywhere, but this is the reason I'm bringing this up. I never, ever had a problem with that at my workplace. My colleagues are the most respectful, most inclusive, and most understanding people I ever worked with. And I used to work at a car rental agency. This is where, you know, poster calendars used to hang on the walls of scantily clad women, so to say. But somehow outside, there are these people that are somehow angry that girls got in their treehouse. And they're still angry at 45, because not every comment like that is written by a 13-year-old. So what do? First, I tried ignoring it because I thought they might stop. They don't. With every new article, there's always new talk. So at times I try to be tougher, badass. But if you look into my face, badass is not one of my leading characteristics. So what do we do at GameStar and at GamePro? We try to face them head on. So every day we have social media managers and also community managers that work with those people. And we have clear rules, and if people decide not to follow them, we decide not to have these people on our site. Because there need to be consequences. People throw rocks at abandoned houses because they know no one will punish them for it. But our houses, our social media pages, our Instagram account, our website, they are very much lived in. And and our social media managers try to manage it because it's hard for them to find everything right from the start, but eventually they find it and they deal with it. That makes them sound like mob enforcers. They're actually really lovely people, but I'll just leave it like that because they surely sound like they show tendencies. But it's very important to say that not everybody is as lucky as I am. I might have not to deal with comments like that at work because I work with great people, but not everyone does. And it's like a migraine, I think. Not everyone has it, and people that only have slight headaches, they tend to tell everyone that it's not that bad. You know, I have a migraine, but I never get sick, so migraines are not that bad. Well, oh no, it might be. That's what I wanted to say. Others throw up regularly and they can't get off their beds because the migraine is so hard, or because some comments really got to them. So my advice is to stick together, to take others seriously and to listen what they have to say, because just because you don't suffer from it doesn't mean that no one is. And if you have someone you can talk to, and if you have someone who really takes you seriously, that already helps so much. Same goes for the guys, because they get the comments too. I hear stuff about receding hairlines and it throws them into a panic, so we get that. And for Rise of the Tomb Raider. I did that review. I also reviewed the DLC and the next Tomb Raider as well. And God of War, because I could. Because I get stubborn that way. If someone tells me I can't do it and it's a stupid reason, I'm just trying harder. Sure. Ha. Okay, so one thing you might have noticed is that I mentioned a lot of people that work with me. That is because I need them to send me awfully cute pictures of pugs. But also to make great content and to get better at what I do, at what we do. Because I told you I never wanted to become a journalist because I thought it meant chasing after stories against your colleagues. It doesn't. I mean, it means, of course, making sure that a lot of people read your pieces because we also have to pay for rent and housing, and I live in Munich, and I just recently had to sell my soul to get a new apartment. But we also really, really want to talk about video games, and we need others to do that. There is no conversation with just one person. A conversation with one person is either a monologue on a stage or really, really creepy if that's the only thing you hear on a dark, deserted street. Also very vital to a conversation, different points of view. How interesting is a discussion in which everybody has the same opinion? It's not. It's boring, as there's no development and we're treading water. We're not evolving, we're maybe even regressing. So as in every part of life, we need to reflect on what we say and what we do. We need to challenge our views and our way to see things. And we cannot do that alone. We can't even do that with the same group of people over and over again. It's like if your grandpa comes up at Christmas and he keeps telling you the same story every year. He's like, oh, it's like that time when we were somewhere. Everybody has a grandpa. Get a new grandpa. Don't get a new grandpa, I'm sorry. I mean, get your grandpa a friend so they can swap stories and each take different stories to their parents, to their children, so they won't bore them for Christmas. And I want that too. Not new grandpas, but I want new points of view to consider. I need new points of view to consider. Because the same way a developer cannot make the same game over and over again, except for FIFA, but I heard they have new grass movements, so we can't afford to have the same content on every gaming website. That is boring. Nobody wants to read that. We need to engage and we need to discuss. We need to grow by finding new ways to write and new topics to write about, so everyone can relate. And that's why I'm standing here today, because I want more women in our line of work. But not only women, men too. I actually don't care about your gender, I just care about what's in your head, like the content of your brain, which is also, if you turn it in the right direction, a bit serial killerly, but I mean it in the nice way. What I mean is, we as creative people, but also we as an industry, can only grow if we get new impulses, if we broaden our horizons. Because when our content is neither challenging or unique, why would you bother reading it at all? And that's the ending statement.